I think we need to talk about the controversy surrounding the active shooter video game that is releasing on Steam on June 6th, and everyone is losing their collective shits over this game. Oh my god, Valve needs to take action right now. They need to ban this game from Steam. This game cannot exist. As if the game getting pulled from Steam is going to prevent the game from getting out there somehow. You think that the developers of this game are depending 100% upon Steam not removing the game because it's edgy? I'm pretty sure that they expect that to happen, or at least prepared for that to happen. All of these edgy, politically incorrect, or any other type of games that are just created to offend people, they usually get out there some other way. They release it on their own website. They release it some other method. Steam is not... The thing about PC gaming is that it's a very open platform. You can create your own website right now and release your game on your own website, and that's how you can get it out there. The thing that these people are doing, they don't realize, all they're doing is creating a Streisand effect here. They think that by spreading awareness and by having all these petitions to Valve to ban the game, or we're going to boycott you. I love how they talk about boycotts. A lot of the people who organize boycotts against certain companies for not meeting their political and moral standards, they don't even use these procs to begin with. How many of these mainstream media analysts that are going nuts over this active shooter video game have even knew what Steam was before today or yesterday when the controversy around this game started spreading around like wildfire? So, should we really take the opinions of people who know absolutely nothing about the gaming industry? Should we take the opinion of these people seriously? I think not. You know, the CNNs and the Fox News and the NBCs and so on and so forth. Why should we care about what these people think about the gaming industry and about violent video games? Give me a break. Didn't they just say the other week... Didn't a whole bunch of people just say the other week that violent video games are, you know, when President Trump was going after violent video games and saying violent video games are responsible for mass shootings or whatever, which is obviously bullshit, don't get me wrong. But then these people are now saying that, oh, if a game like this gets out there, it'll inspire someone to commit a mass shooting. Like, what? Didn't you guys just say a few weeks ago that mass shooting, that you can't blame video games on mass shootings? Well, they only said that because Trump said it, and if Trump says it, then it's automatically wrong. And don't get me wrong, Trump was definitely wrong on this one, but now that a video game about a school shooting specifically is coming out, oh, now you change your opinion. Oh, now video games are the problem again. I thought the left was defending video games the other week because Trump was going after it, so they had to defend it. I just love how the whole political dynamic works. If one side is for it, then you have to be against it, and vice versa. It's just the way things are in the current political climate, unfortunately. And some people might say, well, this has nothing to do with politics. This is just, you know, we don't like mass shootings. Mass shootings are awful, and we need to take away these video games. These video games need to be banned because now we're just promoting mass shootings. Well, aren't you doing that by talking about these shootings in the first place? School shootings happen, and they're a real thing, and it's a heartbreaking thing to happen. But come on. Every time there's a shooting in a school setting, you have to report on it. Meanwhile, every other shooting you can think of happens way more often than a school shooting, but you hear about it much less. Think about that for a second. How many other types of gun-related acts of violence are committed, and are committed more frequently than school shootings? Or even something outside of school shootings. More people die of a car accident than a school shooting. People don't say take away cars. We need to regulate cars more often. Meanwhile, you have so many more people die of car accident every single day. Gang violence in cities like Chicago, Baltimore, Detroit happens all the time, but yet we hear about school shootings way more than we hear about those type of shootings. So many other things I could talk about. The point I'm trying to make here, and it's a very important one that you need to keep in mind, is that it's kind of ridiculous that the same groups of people, the same entities, these mainstream media outlets, these political pundits, all these other groups right now that are all coming together and going against Valve right now and saying Valve needs to take action right now and remove this game from Steam. You know, in the sense that if they keep the game up, then they're promoting the act of a school shooting. Meanwhile, these are the groups that sensationalized the school shooting in the first place. If it wasn't for these groups that keep talking about school shootings like it's a huge epidemic in this country, and let me tell you something, it's not, at least when you compare it to other acts of violence that happen way more frequently and you hear about much less of, like, goddamn, if you go on CNN or all these other mainstream news outlets, you would think that we have a huge epidemic right now. Oh my God, school shooting, school shooting, school shooting. Every time school shooting happens, you hear about it nonstop for about a week or two, and then it blows over. But then another school shooting happens, and the process keeps repeating. Year round, I'd say that the majority of the coverage, you know, besides Trump and the Russia investigation and all that crap, it's mostly surrounding school shootings. Meanwhile, you actually look at the statistics, and far less children or teachers or people in general die of a mass shooter in a school setting than in other settings. And if you don't think these news outlets deserve some responsibility for some of these shootings happening in the first place, don't get me wrong. If someone commits an act of violence, they're fully responsible for it. But the motivation behind their action needs to also be taken into account. Nicholas Cruz, the Florida shooter, what did he say? What did he comment on YouTube? My goal is to become a famous school shooter. Well, if it weren't for the fact that school shootings were constantly being covered in the media, then why would he have the need to make that comment, and why would he have the motivation to commit the shooting in the first place? His goal was to be famous. Well, he got his wish. You know, I have very little respect for David Hogg, you know, that anti-gun activist that obviously doesn't know anything that he's talking about. So it's not very shocking that he didn't get into college, is it? Yet, I do agree with one thing that he does say. Do not publicize these shooters. Do not publicize their names. Do not get their names out there, because it's just you're just gonna create motivation for people to commit these shootings. And as far as the game itself, let's talk about it, okay? If your train of logic is that a certain product, whether it be a video game or a TV show, movie, song, doesn't matter. If you think that a certain song or a TV show, movie, or video game needs to be banned, because if it's not banned, then it will continue to promote violence, then where will it ever end? By the time you're done, you're going to be banning most video games that are popular. You're going to be banning a lot of songs. You're pretty much going to be banning most of hip-hop music. And I know a lot of the people that are criticizing school shootings and violent video games, a lot of them, I'm sure, are a fan of a lot of these things that you would have to ban following your own logic. That, well, because this thing promotes school shootings, then we need to ban it. Well, what about all the hip-hop music that talks about, you know, killing people and you know, fucking bitches and getting drugs and robbing people, and all those TV shows that promote the same thing? What about other video games? Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, all these video games that have you commit acts of violence in the video game. You're pretty much going to get rid of all M-rated games at that point. And considering that M-rated games are the most successful games in the industry, you'd pretty much advocate for an entire industry to collapse. And I just don't... People who think this way just they're not very mindful of the real ramifications that would actually bring. They just don't realize it, and it's just, you could say that, well, if this one particular game gets banned, then what's really going to happen if you ban the school shooting game? It looks like crap anyway, right? So what happens if you ban it? Nothing's going to really happen to the gaming industry. But I'm just saying, using that logic, you would literally have to also require games like Grand Theft Auto being banned, because it's an open world game where you're allowed to just gun down random people in the streets. It promotes gang violence. It promotes other types of violence. And even though more people die of gang violence than in school shootings, oh, well, Grand Theft Auto is fine But the school shooting game, because school shootings are a hot topic right now, we need to ban it because that's just going too far, right? I just don't understand the logic. And of course, there are people that believe that all violent video games should be banned, all of these games should be banned, all of these songs should be banned, and those people are just those people just don't know what the hell they're talking about. At the end of the day, how many people know someone that plays these video games every day or does themselves? Do you guys feel like robbing a bank? Do you feel like gunning random people down the street in a drive-by shooting? Do you feel like doing any of those other things? So you don't, right? So then how come then we need to ban this video game because it promotes school shootings? And I saw these video game journalists also talking about how this game is distasteful. Like, I saw an article, forget what website it was. It was one of those, major video game publications. Meanwhile, the same people that review games like Grand Theft Auto. Give me a break. Give me a break. Do these people that review Grand Theft Auto feel like committing these acts of gang violence? No. So then how come a school shooting game needs to be taken down because it promotes school shootings and celebrates the act of committing a school shooting? Well, then these games then, by the same logic, celebrate gang-related violence that claims the lives of so many more people than these school shootings do. It's just beyond my comprehension that there are so many people that are this misinformed, that they're making this huge campaign to get this game banned and censored. Well, too bad. We live in a free society, and if you advocate for these games being banned and censored, then you don't really care much for freedom. I mean, these are the same people that want to take away a right in the Constitution, so I'm not very surprised. But you know what I'm saying. We're a free society that has free media, free expression, and that includes things that you don't like, that you find offensive, you find going a little too far. Well, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. That's one of the consequences of living in such a society, is that you have people who like to be a little bit too edgy, but these people who are developing this game, they know exactly what they're doing. They expected this to happen. They expected all of this media outrage to go on. They're hoping that with all of the outrage surrounding this game, all the controversy, it's going to create especially if Valve bans the game. If Valve bans the game, they're just hoping that'll create somewhat of a Streisand effect. And oh my god, Valve banned this game. Oh, I need to see this game. It happened. R. Kelly recently, Spotify was doing some stuff, not showcasing his music on Spotify anymore. I mean, I think you could still find his songs, but they don't showcase his music anymore, right? After they did that, his music plays have increased. I think it was 17%. So the Streisand effect is a real thing, people. And when we have these moral standards, we can't just apply it to one medium or one specific piece of art. We need to apply it to the rest of it then. And that's what people need to understand. Why then, if you do that, then their whole logic falls apart, and they really have no leg to stand on then. Because then, we need to ban. Well, if you say we need to ban this because it promotes school shootings, then you're literally. What about that Kendrick Lamar song that just dropped? We need to ban that too. What about your favorite TV shows that have acts of violence committed all the time? We should ban them too. Come on, we all know that's ridiculous. So how come, because it's a school shooting, it's going too far? Because you hear nothing but school shootings on the news media. Video games and TV shows, music, ultimately they're pieces of fiction, right? These rappers that rap about shooting people and robbing banks, they probably haven't done that before. And all the people that have created these video games and directed these TV shows, directed these films that showcase committing heinous acts of violence, have probably never committed those acts themselves. But they're fiction. But the way the news media portrays school shootings is very real and has very real consequences, as we have seen recently, or in the past 20 years. You honestly think we've had the same gun laws for years. way before Columbine happened. But when Columbine happened, all of a sudden we saw an increase in school shootings after it was such a high-profile shooting. You don't think there's you really don't think that there's a correlation? You know, we talk about we need to compare gun ownership and shootings, but we don't look at the way that the media portrays things. I just find that very interesting. Yeah, it just baffles my mind that there are people who are just that inept, that they think that they're making a difference by trying to get this game pulled, when some of these people, at least the news media, the mainstream media, they're actually contributing to the problem that they claim to want to be solved. And that's just pretty sad. And just one more thing before I close here. A lot of people who consider themselves to be gamers are also talking. I mean, it's mostly people outside the gaming industry, but you have a lot of people who are also gamers that are saying, oh, this has gone too far. We shouldn't have this game on Steam. Like, Valve should pull this. But I'm sorry, but if you think that a violent video game that you find to be a little bit too edgy should be pulled from the store, you're not emotionally mature enough to be playing M-rated games in the first place then, if that's your mentality. And that goes for everyone that wants this game pulled because it's too offensive, it's too edgy, it's too emotional. Then you stick to Nintendo then. What can I say? I think I've said my piece on this.